Hey, how you doing? Thanks for downloading the show. Welcome to Garden Fork Radio. It's Eclectic DIY. It's me, Eric, and my friends, today Rick, joining me to talk about what we think are interesting things, and we hope that you find them interesting as well. I also have a companion YouTube channel. Today, we're going to talk about Rick's hemorrhoids. So, if you're into that. If you're not, stick around. I think actually you might learn something. People don't talk about this kind of thing, and I think you should. All right, here we go.
How are you, my friend? What's going on?
I'm good. I wanted to share a little Ericism here. This morning after we walked the dogs and came back, the camera operator, goes off to work because she has a real job. And then I had about 6 things to do, and my brain couldn't figure out. I just was starting to feel overwhelmed, I guess. I'm like, which do I do first? What do I got to do here? And so I just sat down and did my meditation app for 15 minutes, and then I felt much clearer.
Funny that happens to me a lot. I call it a reset. When I've had too much of the world and there's too many things pressing on me, and my mind is not, won't function for a minute. I take a nap, which is very much like meditating, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just resets that clock, and I'm back to where I was when I woke up, which was drowsy and hungry and and having to pee.
I have a hard time waking up again after a nap. I mean, I'm awake physically, but getting my mind back is hard.
What you need is about a 10-minute nap. Einstein used to nap in his chair with his keys in his hand, and when he dropped his keys, he had forced himself back up, and that worked really well. They say that if you drink just a half cup of coffee before you try to take a nap, you wake up better. I've tried it. I can't tell much difference because I'm drinking coffee all day long, but you never know.
If I drink coffee, I'm on the ceiling in about 30 seconds.
Well, I feel bad for you, my friend, because coffee's one of God's gifts to men,
We've been drinking this stuff called mud water. I don't know if you've seen.
Oh, I've seen the ads. Yeah, how is it?
Maybe it helps me be more focused. I take it in the late afternoon because it has chai. Is that a kind of tea? It has a black tea or chai tea in it, which has some caffeine, and it has these mushroom powders, which are going to lead into our mushroom talk here. But yeah, I think between 4 and 6 o'clock, I'll have that, and that wakes me up so I can make dinner.
Well, if it works for you, is it as nasty looking or tasting as it looks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It tastes like muddy coffee.
It's got to be good for you then if it tastes bad.
Well, people are going to roll their eyes at this, but I put in a Splenda and some oat milk. And that makes it taste like iced coffee.
Okay, well,
the camera operator likes it, so I'm like, okay, I'll try it,
Sure. Good for her. She's exploring stuff. I think I'll stick with coffee and then my usual breakfast, which is still about a quarter cup of homemade sauerkraut in the morning. Really get those juices flowing. If you put it lots of ginger and stuff, it's just so flavorful and wonderful.
Oh, neat.
A little bit of in a separate bowl, but a little bit of frozen fruit. Always, purple. Blueberries, that kind of stuff. Homemade yogurt on top of it. Just a quarter cup of walnuts across the top, and then dry oatmeal on top, and mix it all up. And it's chewy and nutty flavored, and it's I think pretty good for you. But it's filling. It lasts me all morning and usually well into the afternoon. So that works pretty good.
Nice. All right, so I've been. As usual, I became obsessed about something, and I went into a deep hole about. I've tried to grow mushrooms in the past and been very frustrated by it, and then there's a company called northspore.com, who has a series of how-to videos on YouTube. And of course, the YouTube algorithm sometimes works and suggested I watch one of these videos. And they were talking about growing mushrooms in buckets. And I'm like, this looks a little... They were taking the pre-degerminated straw that's chopped into like 1 to 2 inch lengths you can buy at the landscape store at the nursery.
Uh-huh.
Those compressed bales. They were taking those, soaking them in a trash can of water that had hydrated lime on it to raise the pH of the water to help, I think, I could get this wrong, disinfect the straw or neutralize any organisms that are on the straw. And then they were putting that with some mushroom spore into a bucket that had holes drilled in it, and then you would get mushrooms. But then, of course, they had some other videos, and one of them was literally take this chopped up straw, find a shady garden area, or just clear away an area and surround it with logs or boards or whatever, making a little defined bed, a 4 foot by 4 foot bed. Add in the chopped straw in a lasagna method with the spore that you buy from them. And then, depending on when you put the thing in, the mushrooms flower, pop up in the spring and in the fall usually. And I'm like, oh, that's really attainable,
Sure, and if it doesn't fail, you haven't invested a lot of energy into trying to get everything just right for them. And mushrooms are pretty tough. They're great at parties because they're a fungi. Oh dear.
Okay, so my previous experience with growing mushrooms is I bought the spore that was inoculating the dowels, the round dowels.
Yeah, I remember that.
Fresh oak from a tree limb that dropped. The oak, like a 4 inch wide oak limb, dropped in my yard, and I'm like, oh, this is a message from nature,
Mm-hmm.
And I drilled all the holes, and I got soy-based wax, and drilling all these holes in 4 or 5 logs was incredibly painful, just like watching paint dry. And I thought, oh, I'll just zip right through this. Well, no, because you have to put in, there's like a diamond pattern they suggest. And then I put in all the spore, and then I sealed it all with a soy-based wax, and I put it under some pine trees in a shady area. And I forgot to water it. And that's not good. And some of the little holes, some little mushrooms popped out, but I think it was supposed to be oyster mushrooms in it. It was not. And I got really, after that, I'm like, I don't want to try and grow mushrooms. This is a pain, But then I saw this thing on North Spore, very approachable videos. It's, of course, they're half our age, the people doing it. But they're a startup. They're up in Maine. And I'm like, of course, now I'm going to talk about that for the next month.
I watched their video. You put it on the Patreon channel, and they use 2 different methods. And they go through step by step and how to mix the lime and what the proper pH is, which, if I remember right, is 15.7, something like that. You want to really get it to where you're sanitizing literally the mushrooms chemically, because bacteria is the enemy of fungus.
Right.
And so that's the reason, when they talk about Fleming and the he's growing a culture and the fungus move in, and they say, oh, look, bread mold kills bacteria, that they do battle in a petri dish. But by the way, that story is not apocryphal, but it is not accurate either. Is
this about the guy that discovered penicillin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Andrew Fleming. He didn't clean his petri dishes for a long time, and they found them later, and he wrote a little piece about it, and then somebody else actually determined what had happened. But that doesn't matter. It's a good story anyway. But you got to sanitize it. But the whole point of the video was, or the thing I took away, you could use this cut straw, very finely minced, probably about 1 inch long, maybe a little longer. But then they also took hardwood pellets meant for stoves
Yes.
and soaked it in water, and they did the same lime thing, I think. But then when the water hit it, the pellets all began to disintegrate, and they become this hardwood
Yeah.
mush, really. And
Oatmeal.
I thought, yeah, I thought at first they were going to mix the two, but they didn't. They had some that were straw, some that were hardwood, and they never really explained when do you do each one, or why would you do each one. Did you pick up on any of that?
I think it's six of one, a half dozen of the other. Find what works for you in your environment.
And so there's not a specific kind of mushroom that grows better in straw and another one that grows better in hardwood.
Well, no, I'm sorry, wine caps, which you can't buy in the store, by the way, but are very edible. They are the bulletproof mushroom. You can grow them if you have raised beds and you put wood chips around your raised beds for walking paths. You can literally throw the spore into that. It has to be fresh wood chips you lay down. But so I ordered red wine cap spore and oyster mushroom spore, and both of those are fairly resilient about dealing with other bacteria and mycorrhizae that are trying to colonize the same fresh straw that they are.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to look more into that. Maybe we can get one of them on the
Yeah.
podcast. They seem
Well,
like they understand what podcasts are.
yeah. Asking for a friend, of course, but I wonder if the psilocybin has a particular growing medium it would prefer. I don't know.
I heard cow
We'll
manure,
Oh, cow manure. You know, that makes
dried
it.
cow manure in a pasture.
Yeah, I've read that too. I think that's, yeah, interesting. So I'm now I wonder how come I never found any mushrooms like that when I was growing up in West Texas.
Well, it's West Texas, but maybe Michael Pollan has a book out on that now. So
Yeah, yeah. He writes a lot of interesting books.
yeah. But anyway, I'm super excited about this because wood chips are bountiful in my town. The different tree removal companies, they dump all their wood chips at near the town garage, and you can just go get them. The thing is, you don't know. You can kind of tell if they're deciduous trees or pine trees, and evidently pine trees aren't great for mushroom bedding. But if you see, the chipper shredders aren't super fine that they use, so you can see green leaves. If you see green leaves, it's a maple or maybe an ash or a beech or an oak. So I think you're pretty good with that. So I got some wood chips from the town garage, and I'm going to put that into a 4-foot square bed. And then I'm going to buy a bale of the straw and do that as well and see what happens. And hopefully I'm more successful than the logs. I'm going to put it near the outdoor faucet so I can see it.
Ah, yeah,
And
well,
water
that makes
it.
sense. Yeah, I wonder if you can kind of get a little. Does your faucet drip? Can you get a little drip going?
I thought about putting a spiral of soaker hose in it.
Ah, yeah. I wonder. Probably can get too wet though. That's
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I know a relatively fair amount about growing plants, and I know almost nothing about growing mushrooms. So they're like this black hole, and I've thought about going out and trying to forage mushrooms and that,
Yep.
but so much depends on one, just kind of education, but also acute color vision, which I do not have. And so I'm always scared to death I'm going to poison myself with something. So I just haven't tried.
Yeah, there is that. I don't I don't mean to downplay the dangers of eating a plant you don't know. It's not a plant. Anything that you don't quite know. There are few mushrooms that will kill you. There are some, and they're all over the place, that will make you really sick, like really bad gastric sick. But luckily around me, we have like morels and oysters. I can see them growing on a maple, a half-dead maple, and I'm like, okay, they're slightly bronze usually, maybe sometimes a yellow tint. And then there's chicken of the woods. There's hen of the woods, maitakes, but also they're called the fried chicken mushroom is another one near us. So, and they are quite obvious what they are. So.
Well, I've just you took a course, didn't you? A little walking tour with somebody and
Right, we went with the local mycology group to a forest preserve, and boy, those people were like deep into it.
yeah. Well, some of the species you have to kind of let them dry and get to the sporing, and then you make a spore print on the
Yep.
on a white piece of paper to see what color the spores are, and that tells you whether it's a good one or a bad one. And I'm just like, that's way above my pay grade.
Yeah, the local grocery store has button mushrooms for $3. You know.
Well. Anyway, I'm interested to see how this goes. I hope you'll keep us informed about your choices and what worked, what didn't work. I've found that on YouTube and on Kindle, if you ever want to really get the fine details about growing something, you can go there and get those little books, and there are people who've been doing hydroponics, and normally they're doing marijuana, weeds, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And I'm amazed now that we've legalized. You can have up to 4 plants, I think, in Virginia for personal use. These guys that couldn't pass a simple high school physics course or a science course are on YouTube, or not YouTube, but on Nextdoor. And they're going into the details of pH, raising it and lowering it, and testing the
Wow.
city water, and how many lumens per square inch. This fairly sophisticated growing stuff, and
Yeah.
then how to properly mix chemicals for feeding and all of that, and then charting it all so that they can know what they did in the past. And I said, wow, this has been a real boon to science. It's not exactly what people thought, but it's just amazing. Once you become really interested in a subject, they're almost monomaniacal in their focus on this one thing, and they learn everything about it. So
interesting.
I found that really interesting.
I
I have
one
been
of my
watching. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
Oh,
it's-
I was going to change the subject. I have been
I have
watching.
a pot story then.
Oh
Can
no!
I tell my pot story?
Tell your pot story.
So one of my best friends asked me, he's, I'm going to go on vacation. I wonder if I ask you a favor. And I'm like, I don't want to take care of your dog, And he's like, I have some plants I want you to take care of. And I'm like, what kind of plants, And he brings over these plants and I'm like, and it's legal to grow homegrown, And I'm like, okay, let's put them next to the boiler because that's the warmest thing. And he has this LED grow light. And I said, these lights can be dangerous because of your experience with them. And I watered them every other day, and I did what I was told. And I recognized them as pot plants. The whole basement smelled like skunk weed, And then he was so happy. He came back a week and a half later, and they were pretty big. And he's like, oh, wow, what'd you do? I'm like, well, nothing. But it was a funny ask that I've never been asked before.
Yeah. It's interesting. The stories that people tell on Nextdoor in these pot groups about growing stuff and literally asking people, can they come over and they'll give them a share of the crop if they'll grow it for them while they're gone, that kind of thing. It's pretty interesting.
That's funny. So what was the other tangent?
Oh, the other tangent, YouTube. You talk about things you've been watching lately.
Yeah.
There are 3 YouTube channels I've been watching besides Garden Fork, and you're right in your assessment. For some reason, YouTube algorithm has stopped showing me my shows. The ones that I'm subscribed to, like Garden Fork. I hear an
Right.
upset dog.
No, there's someone going through our trash.
Oh, okay.
They're looking for the cans, the deposit cans.
Okay. I hope you gifted them.
I put them out on the curb, so hopefully they don't go through my trash, but it doesn't work.
Anyway, one of them is this terrific auto mechanic guy. You wouldn't think this would be fascinating, but he's really down to earth. He does this because he loves it. He's been in the business for 1,000,000 years. And it's called Wrenching with Kenny, Wrenching with Kenny, Kenny. And he just does these wonderful troubleshooting and taking things apart and showing you what's exactly is wrong. And I never had that experience as a kid, really. We'd call a mechanic or somebody to work on farm equipment for us because we just, my dad particularly was not competent with mechanics. I did farm welding. If we needed to weld something back together, I'd smear hot metal on it. But as far as actual real mechanics, I never learned. And the other is an outfit called Blacktail Studio. This one-man shop makes these elaborate and most beautiful epoxy-covered tables with the river flow and the voids of black epoxy or blue epoxy. And just how he does that, and he sells these things for $15,000 to $20,000 a piece, and it's just fascinating. It's Blacktail Studios. He's very personable. He does a lot of giveaway work for Make-A-Wish Foundation. He'll make a table or a desk, and it's just fascinating to see that kind of work, that kind of detail. And the third one is ABOM79, and he is just a good old boy machinist down in South Florida, and he's a third or fourth generation machinist, and all he's doing is making chips. Just turning material, and I watched that for hours, just watching the material being laid off the different kinds of metals, tubing and whatnot, and shapers, and I can just watch it, and I go to sleep watching it. It's really like what are they called? Yeah, ASMR videos.
People talking like this. It's time to go to bed, Rick. I always hear that, and I think of the Frank Zappa album Joe's Garage with the central scrutinizer. I'm dating myself. All right, so is that ABOM79?
Yeah, ABOM79.
All right, I'll put this in the show notes.
Okay, I've dropped them in the notes here, so you just copy them out.
Our chat.
Yeah, our chat.
Hey, real quick, one easy way to support Garden Fork is if you're going to shop online and use Amazon, please use the link to our storefront. The link is in the show notes here. If you click on that, it'll open it up in your web browser. If you're on a laptop or desktop, it will open it up into your app, ideally if you're using the Amazon mobile app. Please shop locally. I go to my local hardware store first. If I can't find it there, then I go to the orange or blue store. If I can't find it there, then I order it online. So if you are shopping online, use our Amazon link, amazon.com/shop/gardenfork. The link is also in the show notes. Thank you.
And so let me see what else. Oh, health. God, we're not shy about talking about personal health issues because generally it's just best to go get that stuff done, taken care of. We had our May is kind of our health workup, and the older you get, the more stuff they find to do, because after all, they've got boat payments to make, and so they, I think you need to go see this doc, kind of doc, and then they do more tests and whatnot. Anyway, I threw a rather large and painful hemorrhoid a few months ago. And it wasn't receding very much. It wasn't getting very much better. And so I did talk therapy for that hemorrhoid. I went to a surgeon. He told me how absolutely miserable the surgery is and the recovery would be long and painful. And all of a sudden, my hemorrhoid felt a lot better. So go for talk therapy for your hemorrhoids. It works like a champ.
Wow. That's great. No, that's important to talk about, I think. I think that really is.
Yeah.
You know?
All of a sudden, the discomfort, the pain, whatever, it just was not important anymore after. And I'm not shy. You know, I've had 2 knee replacements. I've had major shoulder surgery. Um, and he says, this will be worse than any of those. And I said, nope. No thanks. So he's actually making his boat payments without having to do any work. He just talks to you for 15 minutes. Doesn't have to go to the ER, and he gets his fee. So he made his boat payment this month off me.
I will try and find the article and link to it. It's in the New York Times. They have a wellness section, and they were talking with a health professional that none of us get enough fiber every day.
Right.
So I actually take a fiber pill. I bought them at Walmart. It's what's that? Mucilin is it called, or
Muesli?
Not
Metamucil.
not the granola.
Metamucil?
It's like Metamucil, in other words.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
generic, but basically you're taking, plant-based fiber, and you just take a couple pills, and that, I think, it bumps up your fiber intake for the day, and that really helps gut health. I mean, let alone the hemorrhoids, but just cancer and being able to process food. It's all important.
Well, and the thing he told me, he says, why don't we meet again in 8 weeks, because he's going to have another boat payment due. And he says, between now and then, why don't you really lean into the Metamucil? About, 2 teaspoons a day, for the next 8 weeks. And he says, I think this is really going to help. And it turns out it does. Bulking up does not make it more loose. It doesn't make it more solid. It just gives it that nice consistency that works with your intestines to kind of ease things through. And I was impressed. So Metamucil is on my list now, but I haven't tried the pills. I've tried the wafers. Have you tried the wafers?
No.
Yeah, they make little wafers, which are kind of tasty, and they have a cinnamony flavor. And when you're interested in snacking, those and a big glass of water are a pretty good snack.
You can get at Costco. You can get their Kirkland brand of Metamucil type, Metamucil clone, I guess it is, or whatever. But anyway, it's fiber and it's orange flavored, and it has some fake sugar in it, the like Splenda kind of sugar.
Yeah, sugar free. Yeah.
This guy segues into my recent trip to Costco, and I shared some pictures of how I outfit my bike to my friends that are patrons of the show, and Rick is one of those. But I post pictures, and they show up on the app. You also get them emailed to you. And now we're doing a beta test of it, but Patreon has added to the app the ability to upload 2-minute videos. And so I've uploaded a couple of videos of the knucklehead Labradors running around in the yard.
I enjoyed that more than anything you've done recently. There is nothing like seeing dogs wrestle and play just to lighten my heart.
That's worth a cup of coffee a month. That's cheaper than therapy.
It is. It is.
Are you banging around your microphone again?
No, I was just moving something on my desk. Is it that sensitive?
Well, your microphone is.
Oh, well, okay. I didn't know. I apologize.
All right, so we're going to move away from bodily functions, but fiber is important, okay?
That's right. And do talk therapy for your hemorrhoids. It'll make you feel a lot better.
All right, so that was like 36 minutes of, I think, great information.
Great information, and we are such a powerful team. You had some great podcasts recently. You had Eric, and I think from Root Simple, he made me think about that Blacktail Studio YouTube channel again with all his custom building of furniture and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then you had mentioned on one of your podcasts recently you've been watching a lot of auto mechanic kind of shows, and Wrenching with Kenny came up in my mind. And then you had Nicole on recently. She is such a delightful guest. I'd love to hear more of Nicole. I'd love to be on with her again.
It's nice to have an adult on the show, you know?
Yeah, instead of just the two of us knuckleheads.
She made the Root Simple thing happen because I just happened to mention, I go, yeah, she said something, I said something about Root Simple and said that Eric was a friend of mine. I've never met him, but he's a friend of mine.
Sure.
Cool. So we're going to stick around for the after show for the patrons. It's 15 minutes of Rick and I talking a little more. If you're interested, I ask for a cup of coffee a month. There's information down below. And now I can upload videos, and after December, I have to decide it'll be an extra fee I have to pay to Patreon. So I'm wondering if I get like 10 more patrons, I could see paying that. So patreon.com/gardenfork. Any questions? We'd love to hear from you. radio@gardenfork.tv. Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, on the after show, in that vein, I wanted to talk with you about a relatively new service called Nebula. I think people are getting really tired of being taken advantage of by the YouTube algorithm and in various ways. It's always the independent creator that takes it in the end. So I'm interested in Nebula. I've been subscribed to it, and we'll talk about that. Curiosity Stream Nebula, and some more about the new Patreon model, so that the money that you're contributing actually goes to the or you just the money for your eyeballs actually goes to the creator. All right, my friend. Well, we'll talk to you later. I appreciate you calling.
Thank you, Rick. See you later, everyone.
See you later, my friend. Bye-bye.
Actually, we're not saying see you later. We're going to do the after show.
Well, are we just going to run it into this one, or are we going to start a new one?
I'm going to stop and start so you can breathe.
Okay, I'm going to watch here. I'm going to watch. Okay.
Garden Fork Radio is produced by Garden Fork Media, LLC in Brooklyn, New York. Our executive producer is Jimmy Goose. For more information about Jimmy and the custom hollow books he makes, visit hollowbooks.com. The music in the show is licensed from audioblocks.com and uniquetracks.com.